Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video I'm going to share some information with you on a lovely little plant called skullcap. Now the species we're going to talk about today is Scutellaria lateriflora, and this is different than, say, the Chinese skullcap. Now the information I share with you is not meant to be medical advice. This is just meant to entertain and educate you only. Now, skullcap is in the mint family, and if you know anything about mints, you've grown them in your garden, you know that skullcap or anything in the mint family will take over a flower bed, take over a medicinal flower garden, just because it has these rhizomes that grow underneath and they sprout up everywhere. I have a friend who actually keeps her skullcap and all of the mints that she grows in pots, because then it kind of contains it. So if you are going to be growing skullcap to use in your medicinal garden and you don't contain it in a pot, this is something to really keep aware of as you plant it, so that you can kind of keep it corralled and keep track of it. One of the things that I love to do when I grow skullcap or anything in the mint family is when I harvest it, I harvest about 2/3 of it. You want to leave a good third, and it's really, really easy to keep control of if you stay on top of it. Now, the parts of the plant that you use is everything that's above ground. So you can take your gardening scissors and snip off the stalk with all the roots, or with all of the leaves and all of the flowers, and even keep the stalk. So you can keep the root, or if you're trying to control your skullcap like your other mints, then you can pull the roots out and just kind of keep it controlled in the area or the bed where you're keeping it. So that's the nice thing, is that once you start skullcap, it comes back every year and it's very prolific. Skullcap loves very moist soil and full sun. So this is something I wouldn't plant under a shady tree, but this is something I would plant where you are able to get water to it every day, or it gets a certain amount of water just where it's planted. In fact, you'll find this if you're a hiker and you hike by places where there's natural creeks or springs, you will find, if you know how to identify it correctly, you will find skullcap there. Now, skullcap has little purple flowers or little white flowers. So it's actually pretty easy to identify. Now, the ones that I've always grown and always used tend to have little purple flowers. And this is the time when you would harvest it, is when the flowers are blooming. In fact, one of the things that I love to do when I'm harvesting skullcap is cut off the skullcap, bring it into my kitchen, put it on a chopping block. I don't even rinse off my skullcap or most of the herbs I use, because I don't spray them. And they're not in a place where there's a lot of exhaust or traffic. So it's really, I just like whatever happens. If there's a little bit of, bee pollen that happens to, get on the leaves, I like all of that. So I'll bring it into my kitchen, I'll chop it up, and I will steep it into a tea and drink it right away. That's one of my favorite things. So you can actually use it all summer when the flowers are blooming. And I've used this also when the flowers are not blooming and I'm just using the stalks and the leaves, and I still find it to be extremely powerful and potent and perfect for what I'm using it for. Now, skullcap has a lot of really amazing medicinal benefits, and for this, I've used it for many, many years, and my favorite way to do it is in a tincture. So even though I love it in a tea, I especially love it in tincture form because it's absorbed quickly into the body. From tinctures that are in alcohol, it can cross the blood-brain barrier. And one of the beautiful things about skullcap is how it can calm a monkey brain. In fact, when I was formulating Brain Glow, I had a list of about 48 plants that I had studied, that I was doing a bunch of research on, that I wanted to put into Brain Glow. And the potential of, is this going to fit into this formula? Skullcap was in the original 48. And once I did all my due diligence and I brought it down to the 8 that ended up in it, skullcap made it in there. Because not only do we want a brain that has focus and clarity and energy, we want a brain that doesn't go into chronic overthink. And I know that for a lot of modern humans, this is a real issue, is when we go into any type of modern stress, or we want to know something that's going to happen, but we don't have the information because that's just how it is, we can go into overthink. And I will tell you, Skullcap is one of those tinctures that I was so happy to have in my herbal apothecary, especially when COVID started. Because if you think about what the world was like, this was really an issue, just the pure fear factor and us overthinking in a world that was uncertain. So Skullcap is in tincture form is my favorite way. We do put our brain glow into tincture form. So it's kind of the perfect storm of all these beautiful herbs, and Skullcap is a part of it. So let me just go through really quickly some of my favorite health benefits of the beautiful Skullcap. So nervous system support, that's probably what it's most well known for. So it's well known as a nervine, which means it can calm and support the nervous system. It's often used to relieve anxiety, nervous tension, and stress. Who doesn't love that? Now, to me, this is a really, really number one, top of the list reason to add Skullcap into your herbal apothecary, because having this at the ready is for when you need it, can make a really beautiful difference. It also has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. It also is a really good muscle relaxant, not to the point where it's going to make you groggy or sleepy or not have control of your extremities or, whatever. But if you have muscle tension from stress, then it can actually act as a natural muscle relaxant, not to the point where you can't function. And that is the beautiful thing about plant medicine, is that it is so perfectly designed and so perfectly made that when we make it into natural remedies to help us, it does the job without any harm. And as Hippocrates would say, first do no harm. So it also cognitive benefits. Here's what I wrote about this. Emerging research suggests that Skullcap may have neuroprotective properties, potentially benefiting memory and brain health. It's also really good for your digestive system, which we all need our food to digest, right? Now, there's some cool things about Skullcap that I love. Now, back in the 18th and 19th century, it was thought that Skullcap would help people and animals with rabies. And it was later found out, as more research started being done on it, that wasn't true, but it got the nickname of mad dog or madweed, which is really fascinating. So I found some other quirky little things and little known facts about Skullcap that I thought would be really fun to share with you. So the name Skullcap has a visual origin, and it comes from the small helmet-like flowers that resemble a medieval helmet or a skull cap. So in Latin, Scutellaria comes from scutella, meaning small dish, or shield, again referring to the flower shapes. Now, there is some folklore about Skullcap, which I love. Skullcap was often associated with protection. Some early herbalists believed that it could ward off evil spirits and bad dreams when kept under a pillow or worn as a charm. This is one of the things that I love about folklore and some of the medieval, some of the Native American traditions and folklore that is associated with the deep wisdom of plant medicine. And these are some of the funnest things. And I think that, going back to some of these traditions and learning about plants that have this beautiful, rich history is super, super fun. Now, it's also back in the 18th and 19th century was known as the bachelorette herb. And here's why. In the 19th century, Skullcap was referred to as a symbol of fidelity. Single women were said to use Skullcap to test their suitor's loyalty. Offering a tea made with the herb was believed to determine a man's true intentions. And it only gave me that. So I don't know how they could tell if their potential suitor was drinking Skullcap tea. I don't know if there was a certain reaction, but to me, that is really, really cool that it was used and known as the bachelorette herb. Now, Skullcap and beekeeping, there's a long, long history. Skullcap is highly valued by beekeepers because its small tubular flowers attract bees and other pollinators. It is considered an excellent plant for pollinator biodiversity. So this is something that if you're a beekeeper, you probably know about skullcap, because if you think about it, having plants that can aid as a pollinator is a really beautiful thing, not just for your bees, but for everyone on the planet who wants to survive and have food to eat. Because we know without bees, we would be in a really different spot and we might not even be here, right? So culinary trivia. So here's something really cool. Although it's not commonly consumed as food, skullcap leaves are sometimes used in bitters and herbal beers. Its slightly bitter and grassy flavor makes it suitable for herbal concoctions and tonics. I love that. Now here's something cool, and this has actually been really well studied, and this is one of the things that I ran across when I was studying skullcap for my brain glow. Some studies suggest that skullcap has the ability to increase GABA in the brain, which is a neurotransmitter that promotes calm and reduces anxiety. Many herbalists describe this effect as soothing out the brain waves, which is a poetic way to explain its calming nature. I love that. This skullcap also comes with a scientific mystery. Skullcap was once incorrectly blamed for causing liver toxicity. Now, this is something you hear about other herbs besides skullcap. For a lot of years, it's, don't take it. It's toxic to your liver. And skullcap is one of those ones that was blamed for liver toxicity and later studied extensively and found that that was not true. So this is something where scientific research on some of these plants can really be beneficial. So it says this, however, later research revealed that products purported to contain skullcap were contaminated with germander, which is a completely different herb. So when they thought skullcap was toxic to the liver, it was actually another herb that was similar and was cultivated with skullcap. So there's all these nuances, right? And then the final thing on this, which I think is really awesome, it was known as the forgotten nerve tonic of the Wild West. And here's why. In the 1800s, skullcap was a key ingredient in many patent medicines marketed as nerve tonics and remedies for female hysteria and nervous afflictions, a quirky reflection of historical health beliefs. Because think about it, when, female hysteria, we all kind of know hormonal fluctuations that women go through on a monthly basis was thought to be simply female hysteria. So I think that skullcap is something definitely to put on your radar and add into your medicinal garden, because this has been a powerful ally for me in my home herbal remedy. In fact, I make a tincture of it that I bottle it into just a single skullcap tincture that I share with my family and some of my friends, because it's something that I really believe is important. And I love that it made it into my brain glow as well. So I would love to know what you think about this beautiful plant that's not really very well known for most people, skullcap, Scutellaria lateriflora in the mint family. Let me know what you think about this plant. Have you used it extensively? Do you grow it? I'd love to hear what you think. So thanks for tuning in today, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.